Outer Orange.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is OuterOrange here today. We have a very special guest today. What is your name?
My name's Hollis.
Hollis is one of the people that I go to locals, a very awesome guy, and you recently topped. How did you do?
We went 8-0 with FLAGBURG.
So FLAGBURG is personally one of my favorite Stoicheia decks, and it is one of the reasons why I'm here with you today, because I think just seeing FLAGBURG do FLAGBURG things is just really awesome. Is this one of your favorite decks that you took?
I think this was definitely one of my favorite decks I've played over like the last couple of weeks. I think before this I was playing Magnolia and it just wasn't hitting, you know? Like I didn't like playing the deck. I feel like I like playing this deck a lot more than I did Magnolia.
It's really awesome to hear because mostly, you know, people play Magnolia because they think it's like the best top tier deck and all that stuff. Out of curiosity, do you think that FLAGBURG can own up, like can deal with meta pretty well?
I think it has a very good matchup against a lot of different meta threats. You know, just thinking about the big three, which at least pre-ban list would be Bastion, Magnolia, and Gravidia. It actually deals with all three of those decks with the retire pretty well. I think it also deals with a lot of like you know, other meta threats pretty well. It just has some like, you know, weird off-meta matchups like Tamira. Like it struggles with that deck a little bit, but overall it's a very strong deck right now.
Awesome. Well, okay. And you said you went 8-0, so you went undefeated, right?
Yeah, I went undefeated the entire day. There was a bye round due to like an error, I think round 5, but besides that, I didn't drop a single match.
Nice. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get into the deck profile, so let's go ahead and do that.
Right. The first thing we have is the Ride deck. This Ride deck's a little bit different than most FLAGBURG lists. I see most lists either commit fully to the Order Ride line or they commit fully to the FLAGBURG Ride line. I have a little bit of a mix. I think I went with this Ride line. The person that I actually took most of this list from went with this Ride line because the grade 1 doesn't have that much value in FLAGBURG. So you really don't want it that much, but Ascendant still has a lot of value, right? And this card lets you dig through your deck very quickly, and I run a very high order count, which you're about to see. Out of all my 18 games, only one game I had to discard 2. So yeah, this is the ride line we have, and I think it's pretty solid. It worked for me very well during the events. We run 9 orders, which is a very, very high count. So this is the 20k Blitz order that works if your Vanguard's FLAGBURG, and this Blitz order works by Soul Blasting 1. You get 5k power for each unique order you have in Drop and Bind. So, and you also draw a card. So this card came in clutch a lot. The value of drawing a card cannot be understated. These Blitz orders came in clutch a lot, and they are even better with a specific tech that I'm running with this deck. Revival orders, we have 3 Condensation Souls and 1 Wild Intelligence. Wild Intelligence lets you dig for your deck a little bit harder in case you don't see those Inlets or Sudden Souls early on. And it also is a Counterblast instead of Soul Blast, which matters in some positions. Obviously, a Soul Blast cost is less most of the time, but there are situations where you have more Counterblast than Soul Blast, so you want to use this instead. And then we have 2 in the Search of an Ideal Far Away. So this lets you get a unit get 5k on each swing of another unit. So you can put this on Ascendant Assault, and it becomes a 15k swing on first swing. And if you decide to attack for your Vanguard for the 4th attack instead of the 5th attack, then this becomes a 25k on the 2nd swing, right? So your Ascendant Assault gets a lot bigger with this card. And I run 1 Nectar because Nectar late game is insane, right? Like swinging with 20, 30k, 40k with a crit, that's pretty good. We'll go from grade 3 down. We run 3% rides. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. 4 Inlets, also pretty self-explanatory. Like these cards are your bread and butter. And 3 Ascendant Assaults. Besides that, we actually don't run any other attackers because we run so many Revival orders, and because the deck draws so much, I feel like you don't really need any other attackers. Or 4 Prize Tridents, right, which is pretty standard in most FLAGBURG lists. I think one thing to be careful about with Prize Trident is that, especially with this build, you need at least 1 open Counterblast to resolve Prize Trident. So when you're making your plays, you gotta be aware of that for sure. And we run 3 of this card. Sea Abduction Breeze. So, or Sea Breeze Abduction. This card, when your unit hits a Vanguard, right? Or when the unit that this boosts hits a Vanguard, you may bind an order from drop zone and then grab an order from drop zone. So this card, combined with FLAGBURG, provides a lot of on-hit pressure. And they either have to draw 3 cards from hand, or they just have to take the attack, and you also get either a Blitz order from drop zone, right, which provides shield, or you can get Condensation Soul so you can have inlet for next turn, right? This card just provides a lot of value over the course of a long game. And it can also cause your opponent to misguard, right? Commit too much to guard and end up losing the game that way. Trigger lineup, we run 4 heals and 1 of the new crit heal. I think this is definitely the better out of the 2 heals. The 15k shield is just too much value right now to really sacrifice more than 1. Because if you run into a bad matchup where your heal doesn't work and you run too many of them, then that 10k shield is really gonna hurt. You run 3 draws because fronts don't work in this deck. They can, but they're useful a lot less of the time. And we run 4 of the normal crits here, 3 of the Fox, and 1 of the Abyss Temptation. And we run 4 of the Soul crits. So this card is actually very, very important in FLAGBURG. If you have this card with a Inlet Dragon, and you boost it, then this card can actually go to Soul first, and then you can Soul Blast it out for the cost of FLAGBURG, or for Inlet, which matters a lot in a lot of matchups, especially Prison. And if you end up missing the Persona Ride for the Ride line, or if you end up missing the reveal for the grade 2 in the Ride line, then this lets you resolve Inlet on the first turn anyways, the Overtrigger. Overtrigger is obviously busted, and one play that you can do is if you're in kind of a situation where you only have 1 or 2 open counterblasts, then you can have this card and some other rear guard here, swing with Vanguard, and give all your triggers on Ascendance. If you get an Overtrigger, right, you can put an Overtrigger on Ascendance and swings twice, which is just devastating, right? A lot of decks just can't deal with that and they lose the game right there. You know, some thoughts to sum up the deck. The most important thing they can learn with this, that you need to learn while playing this deck, is when to do how many attacks. A lot of players just maximize their number of attacks all the time and try to maximize the number of skills that you do. FLAGBURG, sometimes you don't even resolve the 3 attack skill, right, on purpose, even if you have the ability to do 3 attacks, just because it's not optimal. Sometimes the value from putting triggers on rears is going to be more important than the draw that you get off of FLAGBURG. And sometimes if they have a completely clear board with nothing to retire, the 4th skill isn't really that important. And the 5th skill is really just a finisher, right? It's very rare that you actually go for it. That's definitely the most important skill that you need to learn while playing FLAGBURG. I think the main thing that I learned from both Sam and Masha is that you can swing a FLAGBURG first, and then you can leave an Ascended Soul up, right? That has to use its skill. So any trigger effects that you use basically are used twice on Ascended Soul if you swing the FLAGBURG first and put any trigger effects on that. I think that's something I've watched Sam and Masha do multiple times, and I think that I realized that was really impactful, especially when you're on low damage or you don't have many face-up counterblasts. That's a very low committal play, because if you don't check triggers, then you just don't use the counterblast, right? And then you can save that counterblast for a later play. I think that's very, very useful, and it's a very good tempo play because you don't commit that much, and it's very likely that they're just going to take this first attack, and you either get a bind for order, and you just end up getting advantage anyways, or they just don't check a trigger and you can just swing over yours anyways. So that's a very, very good play that you can do, especially when you're on 1 damage.
That was really good. I personally have a couple questions. My FLAGBURG brain is turning on. I am curious, so you chose to put this in your ride line over the Husk Dragon, which is the Zorga grade 2. What were your thoughts behind that?
So the main thought about putting this in the ride line is that it's an attacker that you need to see, right? And you can always call it out. Sometimes you're gonna end up with 0 soul after calling out, but even then it's worth it because you have the soul crit, right? And you still have a way to be able to get the soul for inlet. And then once you get the first inlet off, you really don't need to worry about soul again, right? There's very few situations I've run into where it's actually mattered that much. So that's why I run the Ascended Soul instead. And then if you run this in the ride line, the only thing you ever need to see is just another Ascended Soul or Inlet Dragon, right? Obviously you prefer the Inlet Dragon, but another Ascended Soul still works.
Interesting. I was curious because I've actually never thought about running this over the Husk. In my mind, it was just like Husk or nothing. But now that you kind of explain it more, especially since the reveal does work, right? They both. Right. That's actually not bad because you can reveal instead of having to discard. Is that how that works?
So you reveal instead of having a Soul Blast, right?
Oh.
So if you ride this out like this, right? So I go into this Soul Blast 1. I go into this. Let's say I didn't have a FLAGBURG, right? So I Soul Blast this out and then call this out, right? So now I'm at 0 cards in Soul, but because I have the Soul crit, you can put that behind an Inlet Dragon and still swing it anyways, right? Yeah. Or you can just have another Ascended Soul, right? And you can still do like a 0 soul play. Obviously that's worse, and it actually could be better depending if you're somehow at high damage and you went first, right? So you can still do 4 or 5 attacks and then really push them, right? Especially if you hit like no triggers. Like let's say I'm at 2 damage, open counterblast, right? I have 2 Ascendance Assault. So what I can do here is just swing with Vanguard first, right? And then give any triggers I want here, and then they can just bounce, and I can commit as much as I can until they start hitting defensives, right?
Interesting.
Right, I think that's a real, and then you can just save as much counterblast as you want, or you can just commit really heavy if you see that they just keep on missing defenses.
Okay.
So
That was just interesting because I didn't think about that. I noticed there's so many games where I don't see this in time, but having it in the ride line actually forces you to see it, which I think is very important for the piece reliance of the deck that involves. And another thing I was interested in, so I noticed you're running 3 draws. Did you have like any issue with like your hand or anything like that?
So I feel like you draw so much for inlet, and you're also running the Rancor chain, so you're drawing a lot early game especially, that it just doesn't become that much of a problem. And you can also put down multiple inlets if you really need to like filter them out. And I'm also getting advantage off of Sea Abduction Breeze too, right?
True.
That's a 20k shield, or it's a Condensation Soul into another piece. So you're gaining a lot of advantage just throughout the course of the game. I didn't run into any problems in terms of advantage while I was playing this deck, because you're not committing much at all, right? Like you're committing like maybe 1 inlet dragon per turn, and maybe an order, and that's it, right?
Yeah, honestly, that's why the hand gets so big, is because it's like, oh, I'm just gonna order, call this back out, like draw a counterblast, do this thing, hit triggers, draw some more. Like you really don't need much to get the engine rolling, and I think that's what a lot of people don't know, is that you only really need Ascendance Assault and Inlet to pop off every single turn.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Hollis. Give me a pound. Yeah. You have anything you want to say, or any shout outs or anything?
So this is mostly Cameron's list. His, I think, online username is Grimmar Swords. Or is it Grimmar? I think it's just Grim Swords. Right?
I sometimes it just goes by Grim, but yeah, I think Grim Swords is
Grim Swords, right? And he's part of Triple Six TCG. He's the one who piloted this deck that I saw first. But I think he actually got most of the core pieces of this deck from somebody else in his like online team, Elemental Spectrals, named Hayo. And yeah, like without them, I never would have found this list. I think the only thing that I really changed too much from his list is the number of orders, and I think I've run 1 more Sea Breeze Abduction than he does, but besides that, it's pretty close to what he ran. So I think once I tried out that list, I was like, damn, this thing is just smooth as fuck.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Hollis, and for coming out and sharing your deck profile. Congratulations for going undefeated and representing good old FLAGBURG.
Yeah, of course.
And say goodbye. So, bye, guys.